Hey gang, we are in Benbrook, Texas right now, a suburb of Fort Worth. We're about 17 miles southeast of Fort Worth, and the story we're going to do today, which is Sunday, January 29th. We're still on our first day here, second story. The weather has really turned, but that's okay. So I'm in the parking lot right now, what used to be a bowling alley. It used to be a Brunswick bowling alley back in 1974. It was February 17th of 1974 at midnight that something terrible happened in this parking lot. There was a couple, a junior and a senior, boyfriend, girlfriend from Western Hills High School here. Her name was Carla Walker, beautiful blonde, very, very petite cheerleader, and her boyfriend, Rodney McCoy. Rodney was the strapping quarterback for the high school, and they were the perfect couple. Everybody liked them. They were very popular. They were very nice, and they were madly in love with each other. And they were coming back from the high school. There was a Valentine's Day dance, and they were coming back. Probably, I'm not sure where they were going, but Carla had to go to the bathroom really bad, and there was this big circle here, and they came around, and the Brunswick bowling alley they were familiar with, so let's stop there. So he parks here in the parking lot. This isn't a bowling alley anymore. It went to, changed, since 1974, it went to an ice arena, ice rink, and then now it's, I think, a healthcare facility. But they came here where we are, and he parked, she went inside, and she came back to the car, and it was like, oh, this is a cozy spot. So it was makeout time, like a lot of the high school, right? Junior, senior, they started making out. Now, she's leaning against the passenger door on her back. Rodney's like on top of her, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, out of nowhere, the door like rips open like lightning flash. And this is why you lock your doors, right? The door flies open. They both, like, she's leaning on a door with Rodney on top of her, so they both like fall out, and they're like hanging in space, right, beyond the door. And as soon as the door opened and they went out, there's this guy, this maniac, who starts grabbing Carla by the hair and the clothes, and he's trying to pull her out from under Rodney, and at the same time she's screaming, fighting, and Rodney's going, what the heck? And he's looking up, and he's like hitting the guy, and the next thing you know, the guy has a semi-automatic handgun, and he like starts bashing Rodney in the head, the back of the head, the top of the head. I know the gun sight was sharp, was cutting him, blood all over. Rodney's trying to protect himself. He's trying to protect and hold Carla back in this huge struggle. And it's dark, but out of the darkness, he looks up like this, and he sees the barrel of that gun right in his face, and he hears click, 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 and the guy's trying to shoot him. Now, what nobody knows at the time is the magazine of the gun with the bullets in it slid out. Probably in the struggle, the perpetrator's finger touched the magazine release, probably slid out, nobody knew it. But either way, whether the magazine was in there or not, luckily for Rodney, I don't think it's probable that the perpetrator did not cycle the first round in the chamber, because you can't just put a magazine in a gun, semi-automatic, and just start shooting. You have to cycle it to put that first round in. Of course, once it fires, based on the combustion, spring action, it's like, that's what makes it semi-automatic off the spent shell. Anyway, so what happens? He finally gets her out. She's screaming, stop hitting him, go get my dad. And the last thing that Rodney remembers is looking up in the darkness, and he's just like, he's losing blood, and he hears, you're coming with me. And he ripped her out and dragged her like caveman, and Rodney passed out. Now, Rodney woke up a short time later, and he said that he was holy cow. He did go to her parents' house. That was his first stop, and he ran in all bloody, and they're like, holy cow. And he says, they got her. And in fact, she was taken. The police came to the scene the next day, all-out search, and they found the magazine laying on the ground. They found her purse, but that was it. So there was a manhunt, there was a search for Carla, and I'll tell you the rest of the story at the cemetery. Let's go to the cemetery, we'll pay our respects, and we'll pick it up from there. Okay, we are now at Greenwood Cemetery. We're in Fort Worth. A very large memorial park and mausoleum Greenwood is. And we're going to walk to Carla's grave. Carla was murdered, sadly. And let's take a walk. I'll tell you the story of what happened. And one of the most interesting parts is the case has been recently solved. And we're going to talk about that too. Yes, it wasn't much longer right after this horrible event happened, when was searching for her, that she was found. And unfortunately, she was not alive. It was 3 days later where Carla's body was found. She was in a culvert, a lake culvert, Lake Benbrook. Now, the autopsy revealed that she had possibly been alive for a couple days after her abduction. She had been beaten, she had been tortured, and sexually assaulted, and in the end she was strangled to death. Toxicology reports showed she had also been injected with morphine. So this guy apparently tried to drug her. Now, police interviewed several suspects, and they did come across this kid, this young man. He had huge scratches on his face. He owned the type of gun that the magazine fit, the one that was found in the parking lot. It's 22 caliber, small caliber, Ruger semi-automatic. But he said, oh, the gun was stolen. He had the gun, his wife was on a trip or something, and oh, the gun was stolen, and couldn't have been me. He passed the lie detector test. That does show you that those are not always accurate, to the good and to the bad. They were able to obtain samples of bodily fluids from the crime scene, and Carla's dress and other clothing were preserved, which is good, because you know where we're going with this. We're talking DNA. DNA. Now look at these lions, the Johnson family. Very interesting. You have the male lion and the female down low. Beautiful sculptures, huh? Yeah, so again, in the 1970s, we didn't have that technology. The case would go closed. And there was a mysterious letter that was found, I should say sent, to the police. Could have been a crackpot. But it had this truck driver lingo on it, like stop there. I forget what the numbers are, but it's like when they make a bathroom stop on the road, it's like 10-100 or something like that. So they're like, he must have been a truck driver. And they saved that for 46 years. The case went unsolved, and they saved that note. They wouldn't release it, and finally 46 years later they released the note to the public, hoping really didn't help, but it was the DNA technology. So they started analyzing this stuff recently, right, as they do. And they had really good samples from, you know, her dress. He left his little mark, his little trail. September of 2020, all of that was analyzed. Now, I have to say, like a lot of cases, somebody has to step forward and pay for it. It was the Oxygen Network that paid for the testing. And it's very similar to, you know, the situation with this story. If you haven't seen Rosemary Peterson's story, I'll put it in the description box, the link right now. You just got to get, you know, we want to get that done. We're trying to help there. But Oxygen stepped up. They got a profile. And through the familial DNA matching process, they got a hit. And it was that guy. It was that same guy. He was the truck driver. His name was McCurley. Glen Samuel McCurley. Of course, he's 77 years old. He's still alive, though. So they called him in, they interviewed him. And of course, well, I don't know. What do I know? But they did as they do, stop by his house without him knowing, hang out and wait for him to throw the garbage away and collect some samples from the trash. Now, they confirmed it was him. And when they interviewed him, he's like, okay, here, I'll give you a cheek swab. And the rest is history. He went on trial. Like I said, this is pretty recent, August of 2021. You can look at the pathetic fool sitting in the wheelchair, as they always do. Crutches, wheelchair, woe is me. I'm gonna die soon, have mercy on me. These cowards, right? Well, remember that .22 pistol that was stolen? He still had the gun at home. It was a match, and there was DNA on it. His. Idiot. Of course he's an idiot. They're all idiots. On the third day of the trial, McCurley changed his plea to guilty and was sentenced to life in prison. He is actually currently imprisoned in a Texas state prison called Gibb Lewis Unit. But in March 21st of 2029, what is that, 6 years? Yeah, he's up for parole. Life sentence, eligible for parole in 6 years. Life sentence. And I'm hearing more and more of this. Sentenced to life, but it's really not life. But come on, 6 years. As he lived his whole life. He'll probably die in prison, we hope. But what am I missing here? Is anyone in the comments, did I screw this up? I hope so. I hope it's not. But that's what I read. It's outlandish. Now, Carla and Rodney were very close. You know, Rodney never got over it. You can watch interviews of him on TV. You can see he's still not over it. They were that popular couple. Rodney would go to Texas Tech, and Carla, she had plans to follow him there. They had big plans, but those plans would never come to pass. So we're at her grave right up here. I see some flowers for her in the bronze vase that they have. Let's go to the side here. Take a look at her stone. Yes. Well, it says our dear daughter and sister, Carla Jan Walker, 1957 to 1974. And it looks like there's a poodle. Is that a poodle? Flowers. Some nice flowers here. They've been here a while, I can tell. They're kind of faded, but I'm sure many come to visit her here at Greenwood. Her parents, understandably, never got over it. I mean, just imagine, when you destroy one, you destroy all. Carla's mother suffered from depression through the rest of her life, and they would never get to see this case closed. They have passed on. I don't know where they're buried. I looked around here, did not find their grave, but they are now all reunited. Rest in peace.